Hey everyone, it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel, This Story Ain't Over. So today I'm coming to you with a ginormous TBR video, and this is a video of the top 21 books on my physical TBR that I want to get to in 2021. So I have a ton of books, as you can tell by the collection behind me, and I have a ton of physical books that I have not gotten around to reading yet, and I just keep accumulating more each year. So I really want to make a conscious effort to tackle more of my physical TBR this year. For those of you who don't know what TBR is, it means to be read, so books you want to be read in a specific span of time. So there are 21 books on this list. I'm not going to talk too in depth about each of them because I honestly don't know too much about each of them because I have not read them yet, but I just want to give you a sense of what they are and so that you know what I'm hoping to read this year. And I'll also make a note here that these books span different genres and age groups. Some of them are young adult, some of them are adult, some of them are fantasy, contemporary, historical, nonfiction. Like there's just a whole mixed bag here. So these are just like all the different kinds of books I want to read this year. Alright, so the first book is Celta by Ruta Sepetys. This is a historical fiction following 4 different teens, I believe, during World War II. And I have only heard amazing things about Ruta Sepetys' historical fiction, so I'm really excited about this. And I do really want to read more historical fiction in 2021, so this is a great start. Next I have The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black, and this is a standalone fantasy by Holly Black, and I believe it is set in the same world as the Folk of the Air series, so the Cruel Prince series. I don't know if it's in the same like fantasy world, but it is like somehow connected or adjacent, but this is a standalone, which I'm really excited about because I just want to try reading more standalone fantasies, and I think that might be a fun thing. And I've also heard some really great things about this specific book, so I'm excited about that. Next I have We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faizal. This is a fantasy inspired by ancient Arabia, and I have been excited to read this since it came out. I actually bought this when this book came out. I think it was earlier in 2020 or in 2019, but the second book is coming out early 2021, so I do want to try and catch up so that I can read the sequel when it comes out. But I've heard really amazing things about this book and the fantasy that the author has crafted, and I've heard a lot of people on book Twitter be very invested in these characters, so I'm excited about that, and I just am looking forward to another fantasy inspired by a new location. The next book I'm hoping to pick up is All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. This is a special edition that I got in an Owl Crate box earlier in 2020, and I've been meaning to read this since I got it. I know it is a pirate fantasy. It involves a bunch of female pirates, I believe, and I am just excited by the concept of pirates, and I just really want to read more piratey things. And I think it's just going to be an enjoyable fantasy read, so I'm excited for that. This also has a sequel coming out this year, I believe, so that's another reason why I want to pick it up, because I want to catch up. Next, I have Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angeles. So this is a book that I've also had on my TBR for a little bit. I put it on a bunch of TBRs at the end of 2020, never got around to reading it. I definitely want to get to it this year. I've heard really great things about it, and I just love the general concept because it is inspired by Phantom of the Opera, but also Moulin Rouge, and I just think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I also think it's inspired by the Night Circus, like it involves some sort of competition between magicians as well, so I'm just in general really excited about it, and I think it's going to be really great. The next book is one that has been talked about a lot on BookTube and just other places as well. It was the best horror book for Goodreads this year, and that is Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I've mentioned this a bunch of times on my channel because I really wanted to pick it up during the fall. I am hoping to pick it up early this year, but we'll see. But this is basically like a Gothic horror book set in the Mexican countryside, and I'm just interested by it in general, and I just love the cover, so I really, really want to pick it up and see if it kind of lives up to the hype. I'm trying to keep my expectations low, but they're kind of high, so we'll see how that goes. Next, I have a nonfiction, and this is one that I meant to pick up in 2020, never got around to it, but I'm definitely going to pick it up in 2021, and that is So You Want to Talk About Race by Ijoma Alua. And this is a nonfiction focusing on race in America, and I think it's going to be a really valuable read, and I've heard really great things from people who have read it, so I think it's going to be a great one to pick up in 2021 because this is a topic that is ongoing, so I'm excited to pick this up in 2021. Alright, the next book is one that's been on my TBR for a very long time, like over a year, and it's an adult fantasy series that I've heard so many great things about, and that is the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. N.K. Jemisin is someone who's won a bunch of fantasy awards, including the Hugo Award for this book specifically, and I really, really want to pick this up. I think it's going to be really great. I honestly know next to nothing about this, but she is a Black author, so I'm excited about that, and I've also heard some really great things about this, though I have heard that it is on the slower side, so I'm going to kind of keep that in my mind when I pick it up, and I'll probably take my time with this. Next, I have The Night Tiger by Yangzi Chu. This is a Reese Witherspoon book club pick, and that's basically the main reason why I picked this up. And I did not get it from Target. I don't know why that sticker is there, but I think I got this like on sale somewhere. But I was just really interested to buy this because it is set in 1930s, I believe, in Malaysia, and it involves like multiple different characters and involves some sort of magic, I believe, also. And I'm just really interested by like the setting, I think, and I've never read a book that is set in Malaysia, and it's also in like a colonial setting as well. So I'm just really interested by that, and I think it's going to be a really interesting read. If anyone has read this, let me know what you thought of it. All right, the next book is one that is a very beloved fantasy of many people, and that is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This has been on my shelves and on my TBR for like over 2 or 3 years. I bought it so long ago because I wanted to pick it up, and then I never got around to it. Every time I tried to pick it up, I just ended up not continuing. So I am hoping to really pick this up and finish it this year. I've heard so many great things about it. I know it has a sequel, and I know there's like a 3rd book that is coming that has not yet come yet, so it's one of those Game of Thrones situations. But regardless, I still want to pick it up, and I believe it follows like the life and journey and growth of this one main character, and it's just a really kind of epic fantasy, and I am in the mood for a lot of fantasy these days, so I'm excited for this. All right, the next book is one that's on my TBR for January this year, and that is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. This is kind of an Orwellian tale. It is set on this like island, and a lot of things are kind of mysteriously going missing, and there is something called the Memory Police who are tasked with like making sure people forget these disappearing objects. And then we are following like this novelist whose editor is getting targeted by the Memory Police, and so the novelist is trying to help her editor out. I'm really interested to see how this is gonna go. I've heard really amazing things about this from Liv from Stories for Coffee, so I really want to pick this up, and I'll let you know what I think of it at the end of January. Next, I have a adult fantasy inspired by ancient India, and that is Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri. I am really excited about this. I've heard really great things about it. It is a standalone fantasy, I believe. There is like a companion to it, I think, or maybe just a different book by the author, but I'm just really interested to buy this because it is a South Asian fantasy. But I also follow the author on Twitter, and she's just hilarious, so I'm excited to see if I enjoy this, and I definitely think I will, so I'm excited about that. Next, I have the book that I like to say everyone and their mom has read, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. A lot of people really like this, a lot of people don't like this. I'm interested to see what I think of it. I bought this on a whim at the end of 2020, like during spooky season, during like dark academia season, so that's when I was really feeling the vibes for it. So I don't know if I'll end up picking it up like early in this year or maybe like later in the fall of 2021, but I definitely do want to pick it up and check it out and see what I think based on all the hype. Next, I have Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I honestly don't know how I feel about reading this anymore because I kind of bought it on a whim because I had heard great things about it, and then I started hearing not so great things about it, or at least maybe about the show maybe, but I'm regardless interested to read this and excited to try a new like adult contemporary and see if I actually like it. And I don't think I've ever actually read anything like this, so I'm excited for that. It was like awarded a bunch of awards, like the Globe and Mail Best Book and like one of the top 100 notable books of 2019 by New York Times, so I'm just interested by the accolades that it's gotten, and I haven't seen the show, but let me know if it's worth watching. All right, the next book is a literary fiction that I've been meaning to read for so long. Like I've had this on my TBR for like probably the past 3 years or something, and that is The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. This is a literary fiction set in India. I don't know too much about it, but it was one of the required readings for a course I took in university, but then it ended up being taken off at the end of the year because we didn't have time to get to it. So I bought it at the time for the course, but I still really do want to pick it up, and it was for a South Asian literature course. So I'm really interested to see if I'll enjoy it or if I'll like it and just the literary value to it. I definitely don't think it's going to be like a super fun and fast-paced read, but I think it's going to be a valuable read. And I've also heard some really great things about it just in general, and a lot of you who watch my videos have told me to pick it up, so I am really hoping to pick it up this year. Similarly, a lot of you have told me to pick up The Palace of Illusions by Chitra Banerjee Divya Karuni, and this is an adult fantasy, and it is based off of the Indian epic called the Mahabharata, and it actually follows one of the female main characters in the epic, which I think is super interesting, so I'm really excited to pick this up. I did try and start it in the summer of 2020, and I didn't end up like continuing with it, so I do really want to pick it up this year. It wasn't that I thought it was bad, it's just I wasn't in the mood for it, so I'm really hoping to pick it up this year, and I am really feeling a lot of adult fantasy recently, so I think this is the perfect time to pick it up. Next, I have another Reese Witherspoon book club pick because apparently I just really trust Reese's book club picks, even though I've never actually read any of them, but that is The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi. The reason I was interested in this one is because it is set in 1950s India, and it follows this 17-year-old girl who is fleeing this arranged and abusive marriage. And so she is also a henna artist. And so she ends up leaving her small rural village to go to Jaipur, which is like this huge city in India. And she's there in the 1950s, and she becomes the henna artist for these wealthy upper class women. And she's hearing like all of their gossip, and she's kind of one of the insiders, I guess. But she's also kind of followed by her past and has to deal with that. So I think it's gonna be a really interesting read, and I like that it's kind of historical, and I'm interested to see if I will like it. All right, the next book is one that's been on my TBR for like the past 2 or 3 years, I think, and that is Cersei by Madeline Miller. So many of you have told me to pick this up or said that it was great. It was like really big a couple years ago when it came out, and the author also has another book called The Song of Achilles, which is also super big, but I've had this on my shelves for a very long time, and I've been meaning to pick it up because I'm really interested by the character of Cersei. I used to take a lot of classics classes in high school and university, so I'm just really interested by this entire concept, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I've heard it's really great as well. I just like haven't picked it up. So here we are, but hopefully I'll pick it up in 2021. All right, the third last book that I have on this list is Beloved by Toni Morrison. I really wish I had picked up Toni Morrison books like before 2020, but I kind of bought 2 of her books in the summer and I didn't get around to picking them up, but I'm hoping to pick them up this year. And I'm just really excited to explore like her whole catalog, but I'm hoping to start with Beloved because I know this is one of the most like renowned of her works and like the most well-known. So I'm excited for that and just to read all of her books. All right, second last book that I have here is one that's been on my TBR once again for like years, and I bought this I think when it came out because I was so excited by the concept, and that is Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. And this is basically a YA fantasy set in South Korea, in Seoul, and it's based off the myth or the mythical being called the Gumiho, which is a fox demon. And when I heard this concept, I was so excited for it because the main character is the Gumiho, and she eats the souls of men, I think, to stay alive, which I thought was super cool. But this is also a love story, and it apparently has some K-drama feels to it, so I'm really excited by that. I just haven't gotten around to picking it up. I did try picking it up at the end of 2020, but I tried to pick it up via the audiobook, and I found that I hated the audiobook, so I'm gonna try and physically read it, and we'll see how I like it. All right, and the last book from the 21 books from my physical TBR that I want to pick up in 2021, I want to read Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. So Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite authors. I absolutely love Stardust, and I love The Ocean at the End of the Lane. And I think he's just an incredible writer and creator. So I'm really excited to pick up Neverwhere because so many people have told me it's great. And so I bought this paperback, I think in the summer of 2020, and I just never got around to reading it. And once again, this is a theme, but I really, really want to read this year. And I think it's going to be a really nice fantasy read. And I think his books just always transport me to like another dimension, like another world. And I love that about them. So really excited to pick this up. But those are the 21 books from my physical TBR that I want to read in 2021. I hope I didn't talk too fast. I probably did talk too fast in this video, but I did really want to get through these in a really quick manner without making this video super, super long. But I'm really excited about all of these, and I think 2021 is going to be a better reading year for me. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, and all of these are just super exciting. And they're all really different from what I regularly read, so I'm excited about that as well. But let me know what you guys are planning to read in 2021. What are the books that are on your physical TBR that you haven't gotten around to? Which ones have been sitting on your TBR for like a year or 2 or 3 or on your shelves? Let me know what they are. I would love to hear from you guys. And if you're interested in hearing more about my reading and regular life, go check out my Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads in the description down below. And thank you so, so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. So please remember that this story ain't over. Bye!